there's different I start to look at there's different variations of this. There's one that just lights the back of the TV as just a light. There's one that actually does stuff that goes to music, and then there's one like I got here that reads the TV and then it adjusts the lights to the back of it, and then it connects to all sorts of stuff. I didn't know that that was possible until I started to do the digging. And so one of the things that I want to think about today is our ability to understand change and complexity in our client's business. If we understand those things, we understand the questions, we understand the insights, we understand the types of things that we share with them, then we can start to show them things they might not be aware of. If we're only solving the problem that they say, hey, this is what I want, then we're running the risk of now having to try and sell them stuff that they don't want. But if we understand what they need, then we're going to be willing to challenge them, then we can ask better questions, we can share better insights, we can move them along. I grabbed a whole bunch of books that I thought would be meaningful for this. There you go, there's the stack that I was looking at, and just in terms of examples. And a lot of this stuff that I'm looking at here is about change, is about complexity. So the complexity advantage is a good one. Our immunity to change, leading through change. These are important ones when we're thinking about business, is how to understand the stuff that our customers are going through, that complexity side. And then of course we're looking at influence, how we're doing that. Power of Co-Creation is another good book, and really how we're pitching our offer. So I want you to think from in this webinar today is just really thinking through when I'm talking to my client, when I'm talking to people in my network, when I'm talking to even potential partners, what's the stuff that they might not see that I can maybe connect the dots with? That's the purpose of this. Anything else, Kendall, before I click down arrow on my computer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a large part of this too is thinking about how can I be a partner to my clients and or position myself as a partner to prospects and providing them something of value based upon their need versus being in a position of selling them something.
Mm-hmm.
And so a large part of what we've been putting together with ISPA and these webinars is positioning you more as a consultative problem solver versus leading with the product or the one solution that you offer.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, and that's there we go. We talked about, and we've got this in a couple different areas. I'm not sure if we've talked about this before, but this is always something as a good visual tool for me, is to think, okay, what do I know about the potential value of the people I'm working with? Do I know kind of like right away, what can I charge them? What percentage of my business are these? If we're doing like a fee-based planner where we have a whole bunch of clients, how many clients do we have to go through that we charge a very specific fee for a project? Then we can start to think, well, what other kind of projects or products could we sell those people? We talked about this when we talk about the market expansion type stuff. And then, of course, what are my conversions? Where do I do my best work? If I'm trying to sell a high ticket offer, a premium service, am I good at selling that? Where do I have the best leverage? And of course, where do we have these upsells, cross sells, downsells, all these ways that we can move them through? And then looking at our customers more from the lens of lifetime value versus how do I sell them this thing right now? Sometimes it makes sense to sell them nothing right now for the sake of selling them lots of stuff long term. Because as Kendall said, if you take this sort of partnership mentality, what's the best way I can help somebody? If I'm looking at, they say, I really need to solve this problem right now. If we understand how to connect the dots, how to create that need, how to look long term, we might see a better opportunity for them to do something, even if it means, hey, I think you guys need to work on this stuff right now so that we're in a position to do these things. You have a couple examples you were talking about earlier, Kendall.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing, for example, personal financial planning, that the service or the solution that you provide is developing a strategy to make sure that a individual is taken care of after retirement and or whatever their financial goals are. So that could be the someone comes to you and says, I need to pick up a piece of, lack of a better term, a piece of meat, and you go, well, here's a fork. And so you're just immediately providing them that solution versus saying, why do you want to pick up that piece of meat? What's the purpose of that? There could be 5 or 6 other solutions that you provide because you dig deeper and you're wanting to understand what the core and the root of the issue is. And then because of that, naturally upsells, conversions, and all that stuff begin to happen because you're understanding what the root cause is versus just solving what they believe their surface problem is. And that's where positioning yourself more as the partner and digging in deep and doing the, I would say the um, investigative work to understand what are the motivations, what are they trying to achieve, what is getting in the way. You can then identify much more of of the needs, and then you're in a position to be able to facilitate that. And I kind of look at it as a cruise director. You may have that answer for them immediately, or you're going to help facilitate where they can find it and partner and create those options and those connections for them.
Absolutely. And you made, we talked about this again, scarcity. And I need a higher resolution photo of this, but I just like pictures of silly animals. This one, I always think about this. Exactly what we're saying is adopt I don't need the business mindset. This is something I always think about. We want everybody. We don't need everybody. And sometimes taking on the wrong projects, the wrong clients, the wrong challenges does more damage to our business than it does help us. And so when we think about this is how are we putting this in our mind to say, okay, how do I have better conversations that might lead to long-term success? Premium offers don't come typically from a one call close. They don't come from a, hey, I just met you, let's sit down and talk about it, and I'm going to sell you everything. If you're going to close them in one call, it's only because you've got trust that's already built in, you've got a warm referral, you've got a relationship, you've got something that you can validate that from. You've already built something, some kind of goodwill that allows them to move forward with you. Most of the time, you have to spend all of this time to make that stuff look easy. But when you adopt that, I don't need this business if it doesn't make sense. But when you see that there's an opportunity to help somebody win, you should be salivating, being like, oh man, how do we make this work? What do we have to do? And the more complex and the more stuff you're going to help them with, of course, the more you can charge. But that does come from doing all that stuff. This is the one I always talk about, two words that make puppies really sad: discounting and chasing, right? We never want to think about, how do we make this cheaper? I hear this all the time. I'm chasing these clients around. Nobody's getting back to me. If you're finding that these two words are coming into your vocabulary, we need to fix how we're positioning our offers, how we're positioning our messaging, how we're positioning ourselves as a trusted partner. Because a discount, you should be able to feel really good about charging something that is meaningful, that is for value, that a customer is excited to pay, even if they're a little bit uncomfortable. It's outside of their budget that they thought of, but they're going, hey man, if people that pay, they pay attention. And so that's going to be really important, and that we want them to chase us. We don't want to be chasing them. And kind of like we ran into that before.
Yeah, and I think this dynamic, I think, can be tough, especially if you don't have a strong pipeline of existing clients and you're starting out. How do I have a feeling and approach this from a place of, I don't need the business, when I actuality need the revenue to help to kickstart my business? How do I provide a value-added tool without chasing anyone when I seriously need to find the business? So I think these can feel like they're at odds with each other. However, that power differential, and Joe and I both love the book Pitch Anything, and I don't know if any of you guys have read this on this call, but it's such a great resource. And one thing that I walked away and listening to that was, he'll have a conversation. He'll say, let's sit down and discuss and identify if we are a good fit to work with each other. Yeah. So immediately, with just those words, you are evening the playing field to say, you know what, this may not be a good fit for us. And so therefore you're not in a chasing, selling position.
Mm-hmm. And I think, yeah, and the other part is like with that side of it, I've run into so many different times. Yeah, and Gary's right. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. In the absence of everything, price is the only thing, but there are 100 other things that are involved in these discussions. I know for me, when I'm in my sweet spot, when I'm talking to somebody, I get to the point where they go, well, hold on, do you think I could buy that from you? I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good idea. Let's talk about it. But also to be able to say, you know what, I don't see the deal here. I don't see the opportunity. I know I can help you in some way, but I don't see what we're looking at. Let's really go in before we start to put an offer on the table. We got to get clear on this. I have to feel like, oh, I get it. So if we did this and it went like this, we can make these things happen. It goes like this, so we could be here. Does that sound good? Okay, well, let's put some numbers on the table. Right? Here's what I'm thinking. That's where we get into, like, pitching a premium service typically has to come from, like I said earlier, a level of complexity and a level of change that we're trying to institute. And there's going to be also a big thing that we talk about, I didn't put it in here, but a joint accountability. you know, I'm willing to do these things and you need to be willing to do these things, because a premium service really comes from the ability for both of us to come to the table ready to work, right? Um, this one
I think
here, this, yes,
we just want to mention too, which I think goes very much into selling premium services and building that long-term relational rapport in business advisory is your presence. And I bring this up for the sense of I've been in the position with Joe where I reached out to him probably I can't remember how long ago. And his posture and demeanor and presence on the phone within a discovery call and trying to figure out if it was a great fit for us to work with each other is exactly what you see here today. Very casual, calm, confident. He's not being a salesy weirdo. So from a sort of perspective of business advisory, yeah, if you're working for a firm, you're selling the firm, but you're also selling yourself. There has to be a comfortability of does this person make me feel calm? Does this person, do I feel trusted with them? And especially in a business advisory environment where there can be a lot of fear, unknowns into the future, that feeling of I got you and that calm, casual, authentic self is so important.
yeah, it is important, and this is where, you know, we could do we should do some sessions on mindset, for sure, about posture, about presentation, and just really just kind of owning that space, because I think for me, it's really understanding that everybody I'm going to work with, I think, do I want to work with this person? Would we have fun in 6 months, a year? What does this look like? If this feels like I got to drag myself into a meeting, then I'm going to probably do everything I can to unsell that. But for me, it's really about, hey, is there an opportunity? Do I see something they don't see? How do I help them see what I see? How do I get them to look through the lens that I have? And really this should be fun. Every project I take on should be fun. It should be something that we are having a good time with. This is a good book. I'm not saying read it right now, but Thinking Fast and Slow. This is where I talk about system 1 and 2. And this is really just engaging your conscious and your subconscious, because part of what we're talking about today is how to spot that opportunity. One of the challenges that people have is to get into, like I always say, get into a state of flow when you're talking, when you're just like Kendall says, be natural, be yourself, have sort of a general thing that you say that you're comfortable saying, so that you can kind of decrease the mental energy of trying to navigate all the stuff. So that when you're watching and you're having conversations, you're asking questions, you're sharing insights, that you're able to pay attention to say, there's something. There's something right there that matters to them. That means something to them. They said something in their own words that I should pay attention to. So we're wanting to make sure that we're in that state of flow. Just like if you're driving, when you first learned how to drive, everything's all over the place. You're trying to figure out what to do. But when you get good at it, you probably don't even know how you drove to work today, right? You don't even know how you got to certain places, because that's automatic. So you want to get into a state of flow where you're able to drive in your meetings, but also pay attention to other stuff that's going on. And that's why when we look at this stuff, questions, we've got a whole bunch of training on questions. Questions really matter. Being able to say, okay, I'm going to talk to them about their business. I'm going to ask them questions about what's going on, but I'm really going to more so pay attention to what they say and where they put sort of some intent on the answers that they give. When they say this thing that feels like it matters, stay there. Stay there and really understand, why is that going. You know, we did some stuff on the questions, I think a webinar a while back, but really go, okay, why does that matter? Then what's happening because of that? Who's involved because of that? What happens if you do this? What happens if you don't? Really understanding, okay, this thing is important, so that you can start to weigh the complexity of what they're dealing with, so they might not see it for the full weight or the full impact of the challenge that they're talking about.
What I think is so awesome about questions is the right questions, the right worded questions communicates your value without you telling them.
Yeah.
You're not preaching at them. Your curiosity, the way you're curious, the topics you're curious about shows the value that you can provide, because you're such a deep thinker, and they can tell you're connecting the dots without you having to say, well, this is my value.
Yeah.
What was the book again? I want to put in the chat. The one that Fast and Slow. What was the name of that?
Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman.
Thinking Fast and Slow?
Thinking Fast and Slow.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's saying it too fast.
Yeah, I was speaking fast and never slow. That's me. Kindle's used to that. I think you can tell I like this one because it's all marked up. It's And it's a lot of just psychology studies about how we work, and really understanding, things like how to prime for money, pricing anchors, persuasion, what I got, skill set, storytelling, all of that stuff. He was a Nobel Prize guy. And really it's just understanding that our brain works in these ways, and being able to pay attention and ask the right things that give us the right impact. And like Kendall said, is part of it is when we ask the right questions. If we do, we've got materials on like pre-call planning, so we're planning how we're going to have these discussions. We should know enough about the people we're talking to that our questions should be insightful, so they go, huh, that's a good question. Because if they think differently about themselves, they'll think differently about us. And so when we ask those questions, what we're trying to do is cognitively reframe, so they go, I wasn't really thinking about my business in that way. Could we talk about this? And that's how you're demonstrating your skill, rather than say, hey, let me tell you why I'm great. And we do this, what I call the deep breath and pitch. We go, and we just vomit all of our business stuff on them. That's not what we're talking about when we're pitching premium offer. We should be asking enough questions and sharing enough insights that they tell us that they need something in their own words. And that's why we talk, we won't get into this too much, but when we talk about insights, another really good book, Insight Selling, I think Kendall mentioned in there. Insight Selling is a good one, where we talk about, our value and how to be able to challenge people. Our real value in this stuff is sharing insights with our customers that make them go, oh, I never thought of that. Or they get an aha, where they stop and they give you like a, huh. Yeah, because we talk about something in the general world. Right now, I talk about people don't need more stuff to do. And in your industry, this is what's going on in the industry. So that's why your organization is dealing with these things. And if you don't solve those, here's what's going to happen. Here's where things are going. Because your role probably means this is happening, and you're dealing with this and you're dealing with that. And so then, as an individual, this is probably what's driving you crazy. Am I right? Okay, so if we can find a way to help you elevate that problem and help you deal with that complexity, if we just solve this specific thing here, that's going to enable you to do this, right? And they go, yeah. And if we can show them how there's interconnected, and I always say, like, especially like you learn AI. I talked to somebody the other day. We learned like this tool, Plod.ai is a really cool tool. My sort of theory is, anytime you learn something new, try and learn how it's connected to at least 3 things, so that you can demonstrate your value on the interconnectedness of that tool, not just what that tool can do. So that people go, oh, I didn't know. So same thing I talk about the smart home. I want to know how this is connected to this, and what happens if this goes here and this goes here, because it's not one thing to just turn on a smart bulb. It's another thing, like I said, to be able to go like this and make your smart bulb go on an old Victoria traffic light and turn on, and then I can run a 60-second timer on that with a Jeopardy theme song. I got lots of stuff going on. But that's really what I'm trying to say is think about your company, your client's business in that way. What's the interconnectedness that they might not be seeing, that you can help them actually make sense of that kind of stuff?
And oftentimes, because advisors work in silos with what their profession is, business owners think in silos, meaning that how does my family, for example, impact the business? And it could be very obvious if they're having family problems, but oftentimes when we talk to people, a lot of them aren't having family problems because, for example, the mom and dad are still in the business, or the mom and dad are still the control rod on emotional things and dynamics. But being able to ask a question, so how is the relationship between sister and brother? And the parent may say, oh, it's fine. How is the relationship? How do you think the relationship's going to be after you're no longer involved? Yeah. And then they open their eyes. They're like, oh man, this could be heading towards disaster if we don't do some proactive planning and governance work, and maybe some dynamics work to ensure that after we're not part of this business, and or we've gone on and graduated, that they know how to work as business partners. So that interconnectedness also is a way to educate your prospects and clients as to the value you can provide, because they're not thinking interconnectedly, they're thinking very silently. And that's a new word, silently, that will go into Webster's dictionary.
Silently, it's going to be, it's on the final exam, silently.
Yes.
Maximally and silently, you do lovely.
Yes. Thank you.
You're the Bruce Lee of successive planning. Bruce Lee. Not as Bruce, but a little bit Bruce Lee. Silently, I like it. Yeah, and like I think one thing that you guys talked a lot about with the succession planning in the matrix is most people don't come in saying, "Hey, I got to talk about my family. They drive me crazy." They come in because they want to solve their business. They want to go into the technical stuff. This is what I think we should look at. Goes like this, and then when you ask those questions are just they can seem almost innocent. The better you can make your questions just seem curious, but you know that you're trying to take them on a journey, the
Mhm,
better this stuff is gonna work. Okay.
mhm.
I want to kick it into like talking about the offer. This is one thing, and again, this is a good picture of a dog. I love this dog because it's funny. This one is actually from Insight Selling. I love this thing when you talk about your offer has to have all three of these things. It has to resonate, has to differentiate, has to substantiate. What that means is it has to be something that's interesting to them. It has to make them go, yeah, okay, I feel that, right? It doesn't have to make them kumbaya or be excited or sad or anything. They just have to go, okay, yeah, there's an impact there that I need to look at. Differentiate means needs to be where I understand why you guys are different. I can see why there's something that you're doing different. And then it has to substantiate. They have to go, you know what? This all makes sense. I believe that I can do it. And I'll tell you, if one of those things isn't there, if it doesn't resonate, then what you're going to hear, and I want you to pay attention to this when you're talking to people, is they're going to say, man, I see how you're different. And I definitely think we can do this. But right now, it's not a good time. It's not a priority for us. It's not something we really need to focus on. Maybe something in the new year, maybe 6 months, check back in if you've ever heard that. The second one, if it doesn't differentiate, they're going to say, "Oh man, I can see how this is. We definitely need to take a look at that, and I know this is possible for us." And I'm going to look around because I got a couple people I'm talking to that can help us with that. That's the second one. If the third thing substantiates not there, they're going to say, "Oh man, we definitely need to do this. I can see why you're different, but I don't know if it's for us. I don't think my team could do it. I don't think we're ready for it. I don't think that this is something that we could do. We need to be in a better position to make this happen. And I just don't believe that we can make that happen. It's just too big of an investment, right? And where that comes in, all three of these, it comes from you, your ability to help them understand there's an impact here, why we're different in what we're doing, and that this is absolutely doable.
Absolutely.
Absolutely doable. And then, of course, we need to, as we're looking at this, especially for the succession planning and premium offers, is we need to be able to show them a change in reality before and after, gain in magnitude, and we need to quantify that value. We need to do a really good job of saying this is where we are now and this is where we're trying to go, and helping them understand the change that's going to be necessary to make that happen. Plus, one of the things that we have is one of your resources in the Snap area is the phased offer. That phased offer is really just the same as what we're doing with our fast action program. What can we do to create a quick win for you? How do we really anchor this with something that we can get done right away so that we can be in a position to do the other things? It doesn't mean, hey, we want everybody to be able to do all this stuff in the future. It goes like this. We need to show them that journey. Here's what's going to happen here. Here's what's going to happen short term, medium term, long term. And this is what we're supposed to expect. That's how you position that premium offer so that they go, I'm willing to go on this full journey, not just, hey, can I get a taster of it? Could I just try the small thing? Because if you get yourself caught into constantly smelling small offers, see, she smells small offers by this seashore right here, right? If you're constantly doing that, then you're going to start getting into that sort of recurring theme of just underselling and not helping them solve. And you're going to spend a lot more time selling small ticket offers.
Yep. Yeah. And I think of a analogy I like to use and think about is shepherding. That if you're talking to a business owner client and their current reality is they're they feel really overwhelmed with business decisions, economic dynamics, regulations, whatever it is, and you can kind of see in their posture and their words that they are heavy. Promising a promised land in a week and how things are going to be so completely different is too much of a change for them. And
Mm-hmm.
so being able to communicate it of, hey, this is possible. And I am here as your shepherd and I'm going to guide you. I'm here with you. I've done this before. I've seen these situations many times before because this is what I specialize in. And I know how to get you to where you want to go. It may take a little bit time, but have confidence in my experience and in the steps that we will get there. And we may have we may take a few steps forward and a few steps back, but by changing that, the trajectory, I've always think about a shift, like if you just change the trajectory just like a little bit within a week, the path that the ship was on is going to be so different. And so being able to minimize the high level emotion that your client may be having and being able to lay it out in a process is easier for them to digest. And then you're able to provide and essentially help them step into that premium service, which is the ongoing advisory.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, like, I think that the biggest thing is like you said, is we gotta anchor like small, like the key like behavioral changes over time. I think we can make the challenge we've got is we can make big promises. We can say, hey, there, I mean, everything is possible, right? For any business, anytime, anybody, with the right people, the right process, the right systems, the right attitude. However, it does start with a small step. That's why the joint accountabilities, all that kind of accountability stuff is important, because we say, hey, all we got to do is just we got to start taking steps. Those steps lead to new skills, lead to new behaviors, lead to new attitudes, and this is what we're going to do to anchor this. A premium service really comes from a little bit more of a complex type of an ask that we're trying to go through. When we look at this, I also can think about, giving options to buy. One of the things we'll talk about, like when we do sales presentations, is talking about conceptual agreement. Give them 3 different options. Give them a low cost. So if they're coming at you, this is where we talk about cross sells, upsells, downsells, all the sells, smells, whatever we want to talk about, is giving them something. Hey, you know what? I know you came to me with this thing. Here's something you can do right away. Boom. It's a low cost way to do it. But we want an option 2, which is, this is our typical way of handling things. This could be like a 90-day offer that you have. That's where we've got that phased offer in there. So you might have a 30 and a 90-day offer. But then you've got, like Kendall says, is how do we actually bundle advisory services? How do we offer ongoing type stuff? So I have people that might come to me for a sales seminar, maybe a keynote speaker, a workshop. Those I can sell those things, but those are really productized offers. I need to do a good job of understanding what they're going to do with it, how they're going to roll with it, what's that program that we should put in place, and the short, medium, long term. And your low cost, let's say your low cost is a $5,000 type of an offer, right? Then your typical cost might be 15 grand. That's a bit more that they're going to pay, but then your big cost is like a 50 grand. So that offer could be something where they go, wow, that's a bit uncomfortable. That's a big spend. But what it does, it talks a lot about like price anchoring. By price anchoring, they go, you know what? That 5K seems cheap now, right? And that 15K seems absolutely doable. But if you just present somebody with a $15,000 offer, they go, they only have that out of context to say, well, I don't know if I can afford that. And you have to do a lot of work selling it. But if you show them the different ways that you can work together, giving them a low, medium, high offer, and you use it as price anchoring, then you should be looking at, say, 75% of your business comes in that option 2. You might have another maybe 10, 15, maybe 15, 20% of option 1, but you still can have potentially 5 to 10% of that option 3. And what would that feel like to have those kind of really good, compelling offers that once in a while you get those sort of big contracts that are happening there, but then option 2 are the way that you're selling in a phased way to be able to land option 3 later. So you're not really trying to get option 3s right out of the gates as like the initial close, but you're letting them know that there are ways that you can work together, and there's a bigger problem we're trying to solve. So you're trying to get them not to agree on what they're going to do about it, but to agree on that there's a need to do something.
Yeah, I mean, a excellent step-in offer is the succession planning assessment, a comprehensive deep dive diagnosis on where they are, where they want to be, and what's getting in the way. And that's not, I mean, it's incredibly educational for the business owner. It's incredibly, and then also motivating for them to know, because oftentimes they're seeing just a whole bunch of problems and issues, especially if they're just working day to day. They don't really know where the hone in opportunities are to change their trajectory and put them on the path towards where they want to go.
Yep. I'm just trying to make sure that we're on track for timing here. Yeah, conceptual agreement again. This one is, again, making sure we're having the right conversation, that we are not prematurely discussing. This is where I see people having challenges with, and this is why we're building some new templates and language in some of the messaging. Do not talk about fees, deliverables, what the programs are, what your project is, until you've had the right conversation. The conceptual agreement should be like, hey, what are we trying to accomplish? How do we want to measure that? What's the value we're trying to create? And by having a good sort of conceptual agreement, so you would say something like, let me just make sure I understand your story correct. It sounds like you guys are trying to solve this, this, and this. And if we can find a way to do it by this much, that's worth this to solve. Okay, cool. Focus on what they're doing and not what you're offering. And in that, we want to make sure that we are showing that we respect their time, that you can articulate their situation and get them again to go, I wasn't thinking about my business the same way. And you think about my business in an interesting way. I want to spend more time with you. It's not necessarily they need to buy from you, but they want to know more because you're helping them connect dots in ways that they haven't. That's something Kendall's really good at, us is sitting back, asking, thinking about their business and then asking those really good questions.
Wow. I got a compliment. I gave you a compliment. This is so nice.
Oh, this is a Merry
Yeah,
Christmas. I love it.
I know. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And I've been on calls where people have asked, what's your fee? And wasn't ready to quote it yet because we didn't know enough.
Mhm.
Just we'll get there, but I have a few more questions. And I think that sort of word track as well shows that you're more interested in knowing about what's happening in their business and what
Yeah.
their goals are, versus saying, oh yeah, our feed is here. Do you want to sign up? So
Right.
try that and some of the stuff that you're doing.
Absolutely. You know what's funny? I did a session for an entrepreneur organization, a bunch of executives, and one of the things, because I'm very sneaky with my presentations when I know that there might be people who want services. So I said, one of the things that drives me crazy is people ask how much I charge, and my answer is anywhere from like $0 to $1 million. It really depends. Again, in the absence of price, in the absence of all the other things, price matters. I said zero to $1 million. So until we actually know what we're trying to do here, let's not talk price. And at the end of the thing, one of the guys asked, he's like, so how much do you charge? He's like, I'm just kidding. I know it's like somewhere before $1 million. And just setting that tone of like, let's have the right conversation, because if you get caught in a, question and answer, if you get caught in a transactional type of a discussion too early, then you're not going to be able to show your value. Right. For me, it's really making sure, like, I've had people say, well, how much does it cost? I'm like, I don't know. Say, like, let's say 150 grand. Just grab your credit card and we'll get that sorted right now. And they go, whoa. I'm like, oh, it sounds like we got more to talk about. Okay, let's get that off the table. Right. You can make it so that it makes them go, yeah, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be asking that question. And that means we shouldn't be having that conversation.
Yeah. And when you
So,
think about any sort of premium experience that you've had,
yeah.
it's tailored to you. It's tailored to your to certain tastes. And so thinking through what word tracks you can use within your conversations that give that feeling that it's very tailored to them, and there are certain things that you want to know before there's any discussion about fee or project, because it's important.
Absolutely. I'll just go through this list here with you guys. I'll just pull it up on the screen. And you know what? How about this? Kendall's going to go through it because that's fun for me to put her on the spot.
Oh, that's so great. Great. Yeah, and I just want to continue to reinforce that if you have any big questions or things that you're wanting to hopefully walk away from, please put them in the chat. That's how we can really tailor what we're talking about for you guys. So gaining commitment. One, humans need help making decisions. I think framing the discussion, oftentimes you're having a conversation with someone and all they're seeing is problems. And the more that you can take on that shepherd approach that I have been here where you are at, I have successfully guided people to the promised land. You can help guide their decisions and create a sense of calm. I'm not going to read all of them because you guys can also read yourselves. I think the use of a reload question, thanks. No, something that leads to another question. And I don't know if this is what Joe intended on number 4. But
I just want to put you on the spot because I put some new stuff in there before you saw it.
It's always great.
You can see how fun it is working with me, right?
It is. And I think, oh my God, don't prejudge. That is huge. And it's something that I'm working on as well. I think oftentimes the business owner or the client is coming to these calls with prejudgment too. They're thinking that anything related to succession planning, business advisory, exit planning, transition planning is all about retirement planning and exit planning. And so if you can come to those calls prepared to say, you know what, you may think it's just about this, and yeah, there's a need there, But what I really want to talk about too is how we can grow your business, how we can grow your opportunities. So the more that you're coming to a call open, it sets that mind frame for the business owner or the prospect to also come open. And now I'm going to take it back over to Joe.
Yeah, cool. I'll do that. And the biggest thing here is that when we talk about the prejudging and all this, is that you want to go into this with the, again, that mindset, I don't need the business, right? We want to make sure that we're taking them on a bit of a journey, that we know that we're helping them with stuff. We're taking them through different objection, different commitment objectives. The prejudgment side is, I think a lot of times people make decisions, people put objections in front of their face from their own wallet and from their own opinion, right? And that's the kiss of death when we're selling anything. And again, I want you to take, sales is kind of one of those words that people go, I don't want to sell them anything. I'm like, I don't want to sell anything. I don't, imagine how I feel. I'm a guy that sells sales training. I'm the worst. My world is tough. I gotta sell sales to smells and seashores. But it's really about understanding, what are these people dealing with? Is there an opportunity here? And I don't want to just make assumptions that they're not going to do it, because I've been surprised the people that I think are going to take action don't, and the people that I never thought would do it do. It's really letting them make decisions, taking them on the right journey, and doing your best work and giving them the full show every time, letting them decide whether they're going to take action or not. Now this one, I'll skip this one, but this one is we go back to the sales conversations. You got to use empathy, questions, understanding, insights, playing a role, stories, improve. All of this stuff, and you guys will get these slides as well. All of this stuff matters when you're having your conversations. Are you really paying attention to what's going on in their world? Are we asking questions that make them reframe how they're thinking? Do we understand that change story? And like I said, before I sell anything, I'm like, I really get what's going on. I see the deal. I see the opportunity. Do you see it? I'm leaning in. I'm excited about it. That I have an insight that makes them go, I didn't think about my business that way. That I'm playing the right role. Sometimes we got to be a therapist. Sometimes we got to be a counselor. Sometimes we got to be, the person that just pushes them over off that fence. Be like, let's go. Right? You got to be their champion. You got to be their cheerleader, right? It really depends on what they need from you and how you're going to help them move. And then stories and proof. That's the thing that's going to sell most of the stuff for you. How do I connect the dots using that limbic system in our brain, that associative context, that storytelling version of ourselves? That humans love stories. Be able to say, hey, you know what? Somebody else did that before. Here's what happened to them. And they go, if they can do it, I can do it. If it's done before, it can be happening again. And that's where this stuff really, really matters. And again, this is what I would say here. The best time to pitch your service is when their own words tell you they're ready, right? This is how I'm trying to figure out in our heads how we don't need to be selling, right? Because if you guys agree, give me a thumbs up on there. Thank you for looking at that. And Kendall, what do you think on that? I like that. I just found that that image too, which I thought was fun.
Yeah, it's excellent. And I agree. I mean, the more you leverage questions to communicate your value and to create those connections that they weren't thinking about, the more you can then begin to, within their words and their body language, begin to see they're beginning to lean in. And then similar to something that Joe does a lot is when he sees an opportunity of ways that he can show value, he gets excited about it.
Oh,
and I think, and I think as someone who's providing a service, you get excited, like, oh my, like, I'm seeing so much opportunity within your business. I really, I can really help you. I'm excited to work with you. I find myself sometimes holding back on emotion because I don't want to show too much and get too excited. But I also think that that's really authentic. That if you really do see some opportunity, that you can add value sharing that, because it's contagious.
Yeah, I think, it's both. I mean, I do a training on, like, using asking questions with a question mark or an exclamation mark when we're trying to ask for the sale. And really, if you're just saying, well, what do you think? Is that something that you might want to do? And we're back here in a very weak position. The psychology, there's a really good book called Subliminal. I'll keep throwing books at you guys. The psychology of influence is really, if I am excited and I have intention and I feel confident about something, through the power of the mirror neurons, it's gonna transfer to you. But if I've done a great job, if we've had an awesome time, we've talked about everything, we know there's possibility, we're very excited, and we've talked about this, but then we switch into sales mode and we don't want to be salesy, and we go, well, if it's up to you, blah blah, and we do like this, all of a sudden the spidey sense goes off and the client's brain goes, something's wrong. if they're nervous, I'm nervous, therefore I shouldn't do it. We have to feel 100% confident that this is in their best interest, that this is going to help them, and we lean into those sales. We say, you know what, this is what we got to do. This is the best thing you're going to do. I know this is maybe even a little uncomfortable, the budget that we're putting together, but this is what we're trying to do. Do you agree? And you put some risk reversal, all that stuff, but you make sure that you go, hey, we pumped, let's go. That leaning in is everything when you're selling a premium service. Okay. Wait, what's the worst thing that can
There you go. You get kicked off.
happen? But we're wrapping up too, so that's good. But that's good. I'm glad everybody stuck around. That's good. We're having fun. Here we go. Yeah. So, the biggest thing here is that we're focused on, like, let's have some fun with our clients. We've got some stuff, some training on objections. We won't go through them. But this is, everybody's got an objection, right? Is we just want to make sure that we've got resources, we've got tools, that we're helping them make good decisions, that we're putting things in front of them that's going to help them, and that, we build that trust. We show them that they're, not just what they want, but that there's need, that there's time to do it now. Everybody says, well, what if I just had somebody message me, well, what if, this is the wrong time to be sending emails? It's Christmas time. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Sometimes this is the worst time because people are on vacation, but sometimes this is the best time because they're on vacation. What matters is we're trying. What matters is we're out there doing something, right? And I think the biggest challenge that people have is we overthink, we make assumptions, we prejudge, and we put these objections in our head before we even have the discussion. If we know fundamentally we're going to help somebody, tell them, help them, do that. And then we've got resources. We've got our new program that we're working on to taking action, fast action. Kelly, you want to talk about that? Because I think this is a wrap up slide. We almost got through it, but I can't.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been meeting with members and non-members, and something that the feedback has provided us is creating something that is basically an earn while you learn opportunity. So within 30 days, we're creating a 30-day and a 90-day fast action. So within 30 days, you can be actively integrating and working through succession planning assessments, providing that step in first diagnosis step. I just used step multiple times in that sentence, but and providing value within the first week versus having to sit around, do a bunch of learning and waiting maybe 90 to 120 days to begin to interact with clients. So within the next couple of weeks, it could be a month or so, we're going to be rolling out this program where immediately you can get some wins. It's going to be a railroad tracks and a step-by-step process. As I mentioned, 30 to 90 days. So you can immediately begin to add value to existing clients, to prospects, generating that book of business and applying excellent advisory services.
And we're building this out. There's some really cool stuff. Part of this is that I think one of the things that we realize, and just like any business, like this, we don't want ISPA just to be a training for the sake of training, where it's one more thing you got to learn, then you got to figure out how to apply it. My goal that for me as as a sales trainer, is to go to market, is how can we help you guys go take action day one? What could you go say based on, because it's not about what we put into you, it's what we can pull out of you, right? Because you guys all that you're going out there, like, Michael's on this call too. He's a super talented guy, and he needs to just know how to leverage his skills, his experience, his brand to go and talk to people before he knows how all this stuff works. And I think that's the challenge for a lot of professionals, is we don't want to say anything until we think we know everything. And the problem is that might do our clients a disservice. Again, if we looked at all the stuff we covered today, it's not about knowing everything. It's about understanding your clients in a way, getting them excited. So if you're excited about something, how do we convey that excitement? How do you get to take action while you learn? And that's really what we're trying to do in this program, is give you the confidence, give you the tools, give you some language, some scripts. If you believe in what we're talking about, we're going to help you. Just tell you, go say this and see what they do. And then the best part is they go, hey, it worked. Now they want to talk to me. Cool. Now here's what you do. So what's the worst that could happen? They're going to want to talk to you, and you just got to learn what to say next. And so there's really no wrong way to do it. I think the only wrong way is just not doing things. And that's why we're looking at fast action, not fast learning, because I think we overcomplicate it. We're trying to make ourselves, minimize that risk, but I think we got to make sure that we're minimizing the risk for our clients. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. How to quickly add value to the clients. what they're good at is their business most of the time. What you're good at is advisory and helping them take some of the headache off their plate so they can focus on the business, and you can guide them to where they want to go.
You bet. So thanks, guys. I know we went through lots of stuff and we had some good tech fun, and that's all part of it. Is we maybe we even purposely did the mistakes so that you could see how we handle challenges in real time.
That's right. That's right. Way to position that well.
Yeah.
If you have any questions on this topic, or if there's anything specific you would like us to focus on in a webinar, please feel free to reach out to me. My email address is, I was going to put it in the chat. Here it is. And we have a ton of resources on our website on a lot of different topics. So please visit. Sorry, that's the wrong email address.
Oh, that's the
ISP association.org. My bad.
That's
Either one you'll get me. But thank you for joining, and happy holidays.
Thanks, guys. You bet. Talk to you soon.